Should I have like a soft cloth?
I think it's like the lens.
Yeah,
It's probably,
it almost looks like there's damage to it or something.
Yeah. That's what I think someone maybe dropped it.
somebody installing dropped it.
or
Hey,
something.
people in Zoom land, can you hear me? Janet, can you maybe unmute? and let me know?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Just to let everybody know that's on so far, we think there is a problem. Well, we know there's a problem with the camera on the Owl, which is how we broadcast the video from the room. So if you're looking at the Ashford Board of Finance box, you will see that it looks horrible, and that's not our choice. That's the unfortunate reality at the moment.
Thank you for letting us know so we know it's not us.
Can you guys sit down? It just makes me nervous, all these people standing.
We don't have to be nervous. Yeah, we're very nice people.
It just feels like somebody's gonna run at any moment.
Well, that's actually probably why they're standing.
Okay, so it is 7 o'clock, so we can call this meeting to order. First on the agenda is roll call, so we can start with myself. I'm Christina Davis, and I am present. Pam Summers.
Here.
Keith Lipker.
Here.
Paul Varga.
Here.
Judy Austin.
Here.
Tim
Here.
Rhodes.
Here.
I got you, Judy. And Tim is here, thank you. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular board of finance members present. We've had very good attendance lately, guys. Good old start for everybody. And our alternates, Kayla Plaggy
Here.
and Rob Chernick. Is it Rob?
Here.
Is it Rob or Ron?
Rob, R-O-B.
Okay, that's what I said, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so Kayla and Rob, you guys are welcome to join in the conversation and ask questions like board members, but if there are any votes, you won't be able to vote.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Unless someone runs out of the room, in which case maybe you will.
Okay.
Okay. Communications. There's been a lot. We got revised revenue budget from the treasurer that I shared with the board earlier today. We also got the bond proposals that were shared earlier this week. I think those are the biggies. Okay, next is approved minutes. So we should have, I didn't put these on the agenda because when I was doing the agenda, we didn't have the minutes done yet. So this would be the minutes for, whatever.
March the 6th.
March 5th, March 6th, thank you. Did folks have a chance to look at those minutes? Would someone like to make a motion to approve the March 6th minutes?
I'll move.
Okay, Pam Summers made the motion.
I'll second.
Judy seconded. Okay, any edits to the minutes? They were long. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I'm going to abstain. I did not have a chance to review the minutes.
Okay. Haley, just make sure you make a note of that in the minutes, please. Thank you. Okay. Next up, we've got public comment. Oh, we got another person on Zoom. So for public comment, people are welcome to speak. Generally, with a crowded room, we try to keep it to 2 minutes and under. So we'll start in the room and then go to Zoom. So would anybody like to make a public comment? Luther, if you could say your name and your road.
Sure.
And maybe spell your name if Haley needs it.
Sure. So my name's Luther Brauch, B-R-A-U-C-H. We're up on lovely Wormwood Hill Road. I'm here tonight speaking in support of the volunteer fire department budget. I'm a member, I'm a volunteer firefighter EMT. I want to be clear that any of the comments that I give at this point, they're my position, my opinion. I'm not speaking on behalf of the department at this time. This is just me speaking. And it's brief. In part, I'm a little bit surprised that we have to come and speak on behalf of the budget that is in furtherance of saving lives for the town. I'm surprised that we have to advocate so heavily for a department that does such good for the community and that has such a long-standing history of ethical practices, financial responsibility, and good service to the town. We all have busy lives and we all volunteer a lot, and I think our time could be better spent if we just got more understanding and buy-in from the Board of Finance that this isn't fake, this isn't a scam to the town, that we're all here trying to do a good job for the town on our time. There's been some aggressive pushback against the department's budget for this year, including talks about just not passing it through to the town. I don't know what that would do to the department. I can say that for myself what that would do. If the Board of Finance chooses to not advance the budget to the town, I will turn in my gear. I will cease to volunteer. I don't have any interest in continuing to volunteer for a town and a department that can't fund me to do it in a slightly safer fashion. It's a very high-risk volunteer position. It's a very high-risk environment that we put ourselves in for the town. And I can't close the gap between the risk I put myself in and the peril I put my family in if I can't do it knowing that the town has given adequate funding to try to mitigate those risks. That's all I had to say. I appreciate everyone's time and listening and attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go right ahead.
Margaret Varga, Zychek Road. Last night at the budget information meeting, someone asked to the effect, why do we need a paid fire chief? I must say my answer was spontaneous and emotional. I feel the public deserves my thoughts again. First, I must say, as the current fire chief's wife, he receives nothing for his service to the people of Ashford. No tax credit, no pay, no car, no gas, no benefits, nothing. For 4 years, nothing. We don't expect the superintendent in charge of teachers to work for free. We don't expect the road foreman to work for free. We don't expect a police sergeant to work for free. We don't even expect an animal control officer in charge of roaming, lost, or misbehaving animals to work for free. So why do we expect the fire chief to work for free? Here are the differences. A good fire chief is basically on 24/7 duty 365 days a year. If there is a major or significant event, the moment the tones drop, the family dinner, the birthday party, Sunday drive, the errand, game night, holiday party, holiday activity, family meeting, date night, town event, kids' sports game, the driveway being plowed, and even a quiet night's sleep. They all get interrupted, canceled, forgotten, postponed, or taken off the schedule. I can't remember a full week of sleep that hasn't been interrupted at least once with the drop of tones for an incident, sometimes numerous times a night. Here's an example. While in upstate New York for a family funeral, tired and exhausted, trying to get some sleep at a hotel, the tones went off. For the next 4+ hours, that radio talked and was on. Why? Why didn't I just yell and make him turn it off? Because there's an understanding. There was a major structure fire. The fire chief is responsible for the lives of all his EMTs and firefighters. The whole team, whether it be in the midst of a fire, collapsing building, hurt person in the woods, unsafe homes on a call, bed bugs, blizzards, hurricanes, COVID, defiant people, drug overdoses, unresponsive people, cardiac arrests, carbon monoxide alerts, fentanyl exposure, yes, it does happen in Ashford, or even a simple lip cyst. The fire chief has to know what is going on and if their station members are okay. need assistance, or will need a debriefing meeting for their mental health.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but you are at 3 minutes
Well, I
now.
have 30 seconds left.
Okay, thank you.
The scanner and pager are always on, 24/7, 365 days. The gear is by our door, the radio hangs by the door or in the car seat. Waiting to be changed in a second. Doesn't the fire chief deserve to be paid too? Despite any rumors, my husband will not be taking this job. Finally, the fire chief can't do it without our support. We should and we need to take care of our firefighters and EMTs who every day put their lives in danger to take care of us, the people of Ashford, 24/7, 365 days a year. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else in the room who'd like to make a comment? Go right ahead.
My name is Tracy Stancil, Stancil, Squaw Hollow Road. I have proudly served the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department for a combined 30 years. I currently hold the position of Captain of EMS and Vice President, and I've been a resident of Ashford for more than 45 years. I want to begin by addressing the misconceptions and frankly the deep disappointment I had in the Board of Finance's lack of understanding about the very emergency services that protect you, your families, and your homes every single day. After watching the recording of last week's finance meeting, when I was unable to connect to, I was shocked by the comments made, shocked and deeply concerned, because what I heard was not oversight. It was misinformation, assumptions, and a clear lack of even the most basic knowledge about how your fire and EMS department operates. So tonight, I'm going to provide some clarity because the public deserves to know the truth. Staffing, second jobs, and fatigue. Yes. First, yes, many of our paid staff have second jobs. That is correct. What is incorrect is the assumption that these second jobs are all with other fire departments. They are not. Some are engineers, some are equipment operators, and some are safety specialists. Our people bring a wide range of skills and expertise to this community. And frankly, what they choose to do on their own time is not subject to public scrutiny. Their off-duty employment and what they do on their personal time is their business and not anyone else's. For some, ABFD is supplemental income because the cost of living in Connecticut is extremely high. But for most, they work here because they love what they do and they love serving this town. Concerns were raised about staff fatigue, so I will be unequivocally clear. Fatigue is not and has never been an issue with ABFD. Our 24-hour staff arrive ready for duty after a night's rest. Our per diem staff who may arrive after a day job at 6 p.m. have full access to sleeping quarters. Our 24-hour staff also have access to sleeping unless the call comes in. The comments made about working at Willimantic or Mansfield and then coming here, that is incorrect because both of these departments are unionized and prohibit their paid staff from holding paid positions anywhere else. That is why we currently have an open position because one of our full-time staff was promoted to chief in summers and can no longer work for us. If we want to talk about fatigue, I invite any one of you to put on 100 pounds of gear and work a structure fire for 3 to 4 hours, then we can discuss what fatigue actually looks like. Our staff are given rest and recovery time after major incidences because we take care of them because they took care of you.
Sorry to interrupt, but you are over 2 minutes, so if you could wrap it
I'll
up.
relinquish 2 minutes.
That's not how it works, I'm sorry. If you could wrap it up, please.
Would you like me to finish reading for you in 2 minutes?
Beginning right here.
Please say your name.
Kristen Wynot, W-I-N-O-T, Centric Road. Paid staffing misconception. It was also painfully clear that at least one board member does not understand how many staff are paid at any given time. This is not a small misunderstanding. This is the kind of ignorance that leads to false accusations and mistrust. At any given time, 2 staff members are on duty. Those 2 are the only ones being paid. If we have a structure fire, a severe weather event, or another significant incident, we call in additional staff, typically 2 to 3 personnel depending on the event. The rest are volunteers or mutual aid partners. To imply that we are paying people who are not working is not only wrong, but also insulting. And while we're addressing misinformation, I want to directly confront another false accusation made at the last meeting. The claim that there is animosity between our paid staff and our volunteers. Let me be absolutely clear. This could not be further from the truth. Our paid staff work hand in hand with our volunteers every single day. They train together, they respond together, they mentor new volunteers, support their development, and operate cohesively on every scene. There is no division, there is no resentment, there is no us versus them. This is one department, one mission, one team serving this community. To suggest otherwise is not only inaccurate, it's harmful, and it undermines the unity that keeps this department strong. Ambulance service and misguided suggestions. Our budget request this year is significant. No one is denying that. But our call volume is rising, our population is growing, and the demands on our department have increased dramatically. We are not asking for luxury, we are asking for the minimum required to continue providing the level of service this community expects and deserves. And while the board continues to use the large total number to alarm taxpayers, the reality is far more reasonable. This budget increase would cost residents just 78 cents a day. 78 cents, less than the cost of a bottle of water, a number that is far more digestible, far more honest, and far more reflective of the true impact on taxpayers. Yet this is a number board has chosen not to highlight. Instead, the focus has been on the biggest, scariest number possible because it fits a narrative, not because it informs the public. Some of the suggestions-
Okay, you're at 2 minutes as well, so if we could wrap it up, please.
Some of the suggestions made by the board show a fundamental lack of understanding of how the fire and EMS services operate. Anyone want to take over?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, point of order. When did it go from 3 minutes to 2 minutes? Because at the last meeting, it was 3
I
minutes.
don't want to create a fight about this. You want to keep reading? Go ahead, keep reading.
Using a commercial ambulance service, that would cost the town more, not less. Eastford, Hampton, Pomfret share a contract with KD Ambulance for a proposed amount of $570,000 for 2025, with each town contributing a minimum of $100,000 and fluctuates based on a call volume. Eastford paid $100,000 for 120 calls, Hampton $100,000 for 135 calls, Pomfret $370,000 for approximately 368 calls. And there are documented cases of Eastford residents waiting up to 30 minutes for an ambulance. Meanwhile, the Ashford ambulance is fully funded by the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department. We do not ask taxpayers for money to buy ambulances, maintain them, or stock them. We fund that entirely through billing. The chairperson's suggestion that the ambulance revenue is some sort of moneymaker for the town is simply false. It covers the cost of operating, nothing more. Contracting with surrounding towns, not viable. Mansfield has 3 ambulances, but often cannot staff them, especially if there is a fire call in which all of their staff are appointed to fire trucks, so mutual aid ambulances are called. Mansfield is also experiencing a staffing shortage. Wellington struggles to staff their 2 ambulances, and they also provide ambulance service to Union. Regionalization takes 5 years minimum and requires full support from surrounding towns. I personally attended Talent County Ambulance Association meeting last week. Chiefs and representatives from these surrounding towns, all of whom are mutual aid partners, were present. The consensus was clear. No one is interested in regionalizing at this time. Without that support, it's 7 to 10 years away at best.
A little longer.
Okay. Compensation and respect. Our staff and volunteers perform some of the most dangerous work in this town. We are the lowest paid department with no benefits, and yet we are expected to respond to every emergency with professionalism and excellence. A 3% cost of living increase that equates to 70 cents an hour not only is highly inadequate, but it's downright insulting. My concern is amplified when the same board members approving this raise receive their own 3% increases worth thousands of dollars on top of 6-figure full-time salaries. I did my research, it appears the board did not. Instead, you want to spend over $100,000 on an outside study to validate your feelings, money Ashford Volunteer Fire Department will not support, meaning taxpayers will foot the bill. The chairwoman's comments about our department were unprofessional, uninformed, and inappropriate for someone in her position. Her suggestion still leaves us the lowest paid, still without benefits, and still unable to attract new staff. This is not support, not leadership, and it's not respect. We answered every question the board threw at us with full transparency. You have not released those answers to the public, so we will. And to accuse us of cherry-picking comparison departments is simply wrong. We have limited comparable departments. You suggested including towns like Scotland, so I did that for you. Scotland has a population of 1,600, 2 paid staff who work only from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., responded to 72 calls last year and paid $206,000 for ambulance transport by a third-party company. If you want ABFD to become a municipal department, you will need to pay staff upwards of $33 per hour, introduce IAFF union representation, incur legal costs, and lose up to 98% of current staff and volunteers, including myself, all at a taxpayer expense. In closing, after watching the last meeting, it is painfully clear that this board members do not support its own fire and EMS service. You do not scrutinize other town departments the way you scrutinize us. You do not value the people who respond to your emergencies. And you do not support us earning a respectable living wage. My hope is that the residents of Ashford see what is happening, see the lack of support, see the lack of understanding, and see the true colors of those who are supposed to represent them. We are not second-class citizens. We are the people who show up when you need us most, and we deserve better. Thank you.
Okay, would anybody else like to speak? And please try to keep it to 2 to 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Aaron McKnight, Mansfield Road. First, I would like to thank the board and as well as the public for being here and allowing us to make public comments. I know this is a tough spot to be in. I know it is a new fiscal year that we are voting on. I joined the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department about 2 months after I moved up here in September of 2024. I have spent the last year of my life earning certifications for this department as a volunteer. I would like to first say that I am thankful for the paid staff, not only for providing coverage for this town, but also for taking the time to train myself and all other volunteers with their vast knowledge and experience, not only in the fire service, but also as well as in their professional jobs as safety members and other jobs that they do outside of the fire department. In 2025, the State of Connecticut Comptroller performed a study titled Special Study on Firefighting in Connecticut. I'm going to actually pass out a copy of that study to the board members so that they can review it. In this study, it is shown that between 2017 and now, the state of Connecticut has lost 62.7% of its volunteer firefighters. 62.7%. And we wonder why the Ashford Volunteer Fire Department is coming forward asking for more money, asking for a paid chief, and asking for benefits. I myself work a full-time job in Franklin, Connecticut at a tractor dealership. I make more money doing that, selling parts, sitting behind a desk all day, than our firefighters do here in town, who will put their lives on the line, respond to structure fires, vehicle accidents, cardiac arrest, where there's a lot more trauma involved. And I also get a 401k, paid health insurance, I get paid time off, and I get paid sick leave. It is not fair to ask members of the department, especially paid ones, to put their lives on the line and to continue responding to these calls without benefits, with unfair pay. And I'd also like to say that these views are my own, but the facts are facts. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Go right ahead.
Michael Varga, Zychek Road. I'll let you figure out how to spell that one out. I wrote a speech, but I'll be conscious of time. I'm going to skip the part about being angry at the condescending attitude and patronizing dismissiveness of the Board of Finance as it pertains to the efforts and sacrifices of members of the fire department. I thought a lot about it, and I actually think the Board of Finance is doing great. I think it's actually a great idea. It's great for 2 reasons, really, because if the board gets their way, right? Firstly, it means the fire department and emergency and rescue response in town is likely going to fail and collapse within the next 3 to 6 months, in which case I think everyone in town will probably see how critical the services of those who serve the department are. And in many ways, the Board of Finance will be the one that championed that collapse. And secondly, the people who put their lives on the line every day will get paid appropriately. And that's why it's so great. Because if the paid staff becomes municipal employees, then you're going to have to give them a way better pay rate to be competitive than we're offering. And you have to pay them even better benefits than we were going to give them, to be honest. And the chief will get paid out the wazoo, 120 to 150 for all those municipal departments. And you're gonna end up with a union, so you'll lose pretty much all of your negotiating power, and you won't be able to screw them in the future, so that's exciting. If you go with contracting out ambulance work from like KB, right, then at least somebody will be being paid full-time and get benefits. In KB, I think someone else mentioned they're doing like $500,000 for 3 towns and 150 less calls a year, so you're looking at like $650 for them to come here, plus you need an ambulance and somewhere for them to stay. And you'll have no fire, and you also lose your negotiating power on that too. And I heard the models are really working super well in a couple of towns around here. They're really excited and happy about how KB is handling that. And Woodstock, actually yesterday, just posted for a full-time EMT only position, $24 an hour, higher than what they're getting paid. Benefits, retirement plan, PTO. So our full-time staff can go work for more money to do less, which is awesome. Because then when the only restaurant in town catches on fire again, or the hole in the wall again camp, or some guy driving too fast down the school crashes into a car and the person's entrapped, or you have a water rescue or a woodland rescue, or God forbid, like a couple months ago in the town over, we had a structure fire with people trapped inside. The EMT onlys, we just get to sit there and watch, because we can't do anything about it. Which would be great, because that's totally not a detrimental decrease in the services to the town. And it'll be okay, because we were just the bad guys that asked for more money. Which brings me to my last point, and I just want to say that, despite the fact that your cavalier attitude has totally infuriated and insulted all the volunteers in leadership, and you'll lose at least half of them, which isn't a problem, because I see like 10 people participating in a Zoom call, not even in person, about the budget that affects their individual taxes. So you'll get like new volunteers coming in super quick, won't be a problem. But sincerely, I do applaud the Board of Finance, and I'm almost done,
Thank you.
for sticking to their guns and being so dismissive of the department's request as to encourage volunteerism, because frankly, it's part of the national identity that is desperately missing, and that's true. In fact, I personally don't think you're going far enough. I think you're spot on. I think times are tough. I think we need fiscal responsibility. We need volunteerism. I implore you to go further. I would ask you to ask DPW to relinquish their overtime and storm duty pay. Give back to the town. Town employees, Thursdays off, town needs it. Do it for free. The school, volunteer Fridays. No pay, do it for the love of the games, do it for the kids. And the Board of Finance and Chairwoman, I think you tell all of them, no benefits, don't need them. If the men and women who put their lives on the line day in and day out, objectively more so than anyone else I just mentioned, if they don't need them, I think we can all agree that nobody needs them. Thank you for your strong decision making, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? I don't see anybody else in the room. Would anybody on Zoom like to speak? Going once, going twice? Okay. Next up, we have Select Women's Update. Catherine, did you want to share anything?
Yes. Let's make sure everybody can hear me. Sometimes we forget that when we're out in this part of the room, it doesn't always get picked up well. So, and even at this end of the table, incredibly enough. And we do have, updates are continuing to be made to this room. In fact, the person who's working on this room left just before your meeting. He's been out here a couple of times, so you can see there's some new things on the walls, and we should be finished with that in the next couple of weeks. This table will be gone. Someone from the fire department actually has to have it, I believe, or Lake Chafee, for over there. And so I'm going to work with our Public Works Department to get them to move it over to there so that we can now have tables that are set up in a U so that everybody can see everybody here and nobody here has their back to the public. I think it's incredibly rude. Okay, bridge projects. The town has been approved.
Real quick, sorry, Catherine, just to let you know, we discovered before you came in, it seems like the owl might be damaged. You can see the camera's not working, so just.
I can't see what that is. What is that?
It's nothing.
Nothing.
That's the point.
It's like the lens got.
All right, so people cannot see
They can
who
hear,
spoke,
but they can
Correct.
hear.
but
Yeah.
they could hear.
Correct.
Sometimes, where are you? Can I see you?
No,
No.
it's, we are thinking that this broke, so maybe
Okay.
got knocked over. So just something to look at.
It seems like it's been a day of problems because I could not print anything. So that's, so I'm working from what I've got here. And you'll just have to deal with my apology for that. It's not necessarily my fault. Okay, bridge projects. We have been approved for that program to get funding, 80% funding for design and 20% funding for the 2 bridges that I've spoken to you about before. We've been approved for the program and just awaiting kind of a timetable for when design will start. The bonding of the school roof. As you'll recall, I mentioned in my response to questions that were posed by the Board of Finance in your documented list of questions, that the decision on how the bonding will work for the school roof is a decision of basically the CEO, first selectman, and the treasurer. So we have decided that we are going for the 15-year model, the one that has the least amount of interest, because it will save us considerable money. So you
So that
received,
is on
you
the-
received those, you received those things.
Do
So
we-
if
can
you
we
have it
pull
there, you
that?
can pull it up.
Well, it's on the agenda, so could we just discuss it when we get to it on the agenda?
I thought I would let you know right up front, because I'm not sure what's going to be discussed. The agenda's in kind of a, for me, kind of in a skewed order, but that's how you want to do it, so we'll do it that way. But I am letting you know that that's the one that we are going forward with.
Okay.
The Board of Selectmen met yesterday morning. It was, we had to wait because we didn't have the Board of Finance meeting until Friday night, so we weren't sure what was going to happen. We met and we adjusted the proposed 2026-27 general government budget and capital, both the general government budget and the capital improvement plan, based on questions from the Board of Finance on that were received March 9th, comments made during last Friday's special Board of Finance meeting, and an update from the town's health and dental insurance provider. The revised general government budget is $4,766,467, an increase of $625,321, or 15.10%. The budget breakdown, general government without Ashford Fire Department was increased by a net $944, and which took it to an overall increase of 3.98%. And the revised estimate is due primarily to changes in energy estimates, and that is electricity. There was another one for, I think it was propane fuel, that were based upon some pretty good questions that came from the Board of Finance. I thank whoever that was, because it had us take another look at the previous year's use, 2024-25, and we had to look at what the circumstances were there, what the circumstances have been so far this year with the excessive cold, frigid temperatures, more usage of some of our fuel, and also looking at the reduction in estimate for the, instead of a 10% health and dental insurance rate increase, we will have a 8.1% increase. That will make a bigger difference with the school budget than it will with the town budget, just because of the number of employees. So it didn't change our number a lot, but it changed it a bit. So bottom line is let's see, where are we here? The overall increase to the general government budget without the fire department was 3.96 before, I believe, and now it's 3.98. Capital improvement projects, we also took another look at that in light of comments that were made during the last Friday's meeting, and also an update we got from the school. We've removed the Phase 3 ADA entry doors and window design for $20,000, as this effort and funding from the associated DRIP grant program will be administered entirely by the Ashford Board of Ed. So it doesn't need to be on our capital plan. It's just like any of their other grants. We've also added $10,000 for preservation of open space. We checked with some towns. They do it differently in a number of towns. Some of them add put money into their general government budget and tax people for it. And some towns actually put it in their capital plan and have a threshold that they want to get to. A good example is, where's the town? A good example is the town of Lebanon, where they have open space, preservation of open space, and the goal is to keep the open space balance at or around 300,000 in subsequent years, so that they are in a position to either acquire land and or purchase, what's it called, development rights, which is what we did with the Crooks Orchard and another property, a large property in town. And the town had to ante up 25%, and the state anteed up 75% for that, if you recall. Some of you who've been here for a few years know that. You were part of those meetings. So we've added that to there. We also, movement of the funds from the undesignated fund to the capital non-recurring fund. Per town ordinance, the movement of funds of 20,000 or more should be approved by town meeting, not added to an expense line in the general government budget, as it distorts that budget. I had to climb through flaming hoops to try to get things on an equal keel to do, because that was in there affecting what the numbers were. And then trying to also remove the fire department to look at what was our true increase for everything else. Had to jump over that in reports that were produced out of the system regularly for me to work from. And the Board of Selectmen and what the public sees when they see the actual expenditures report that comes out of the system is they see that 300,000 from last year, and I'm not sure what you're looking to move this year, but if you're looking to put that in as a line item in the expense budget, we do not support that. The Board of Selectmen will be scheduling a special town meeting for April 1st, where movement of funds to CNR can be added to the meeting call, and do it the way it's supposed to be done. The meeting call will be to put somebody on one of the boards.
We need an alternate.
An alternate. Yeah, is it your board?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, for your board. So when you do have your discussion about this, I'd like you to take another look at that and how to move that money. And other than that, I have to apologize. Again, I could not do prints for this meeting. I sent off something to you. Meeting had already started. That is an updated presentation. If you cannot pull that up there and I could connect in somehow, I can share that with you, or I can just look at what you had before and tell you how it changed.
Well, let's save it for when we get to the general government budget, so we can
Just
share.
letting you know that.
Yeah, we can share the screen at that point.
The other thing too is, I don't know if, well, I'll wait for the fire department discussion.
It's the next on the agenda.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Yes, the next item on the agenda is discussion of the ABFD budget. This was requested that we, it's part of the general government budget, so it would be part of our general government conversation. I'm not quite sure what the intention is with having it as a separate agenda item. That was your request, Paul?
So in the past, the board has historically, when they've had questions about specific department budgets, requested the department head to come in and explain it to help support the Board of Selectmen's either addition, subtraction, or leaving it the same. I myself had previously in the past asked for the rec department to come in. I have asked for the library to come in. So no different than we've done before. I think it's appropriate given the amount of discussion with that budget that department has the opportunity to discuss it.
So is there a designee who's gonna be speaking?
So, I'm back. In addition to my role as an active volunteer firefighter EMT, I also have the honor of being on the board of directors for the fire department and serving the role of treasurer. So, again, Luther Brown. We don't have to take a tremendous amount of time to go over things. It sounds as, unfortunately, last week the meeting was moved so quickly I wasn't able to attend. I had a previous commitment that Friday night, so I'm playing from behind a little bit. And so bear with me in case this lands on flat ears. We just wanted to give a little bit of context as to how we got to what you all have in front of you at this point, because it was not a quick decision. It was not something that was just hammered out in a matter of a day or two and then said, oh, that's good enough. So let's start from the beginning, just briefly in case it needs reiteration. Sometimes repetition can really let things sink in. So we're a volunteer department that is supplemented by paid staff. We have a roster of 7 full-time paid staff members. Only 2 of them work at a time. So we're looking at 2 people on staff at all times. We see over 600 calls for service annually. So the department is in a period of transition. The department's been in transition for years. We're coming to the head of the transition for the department. What that looks like is volunteerism is in decline. You heard people speak tonight to that end pretty effectively. It's a reality that we're all faced with. The town can't fill positions on boards and commissions that meet on a regular once-a-month basis. Imagine how much harder that is when you never know when you'll be called upon to fill your role, right? Demand for service is increasing for the department. Call volumes are going up. People are aging in place, which I personally think is great. So service is going up. We have leadership in place in the department that is unable to continue in their current roles. And I really want people to understand that. The leadership in place currently is no longer able to continue in those current roles. And no one from our volunteer ranks is able to fill the role being vacated by the chief. We do not have someone who is able to fill that role. Full stop. Turnover is a challenge in our paid staff. We're dealing with surrounding communities that are paying up to $10 more per hour, and they include offering healthcare benefits. So from our paid staff side, that's a challenge that we're dealing with. And we do exit interviews with our paid staff when they leave, so we can confirm that it's not a leadership conflict, it's not interpersonal conflict, it's not they don't like the color of the paint on the walls. They are not getting paid enough. They tell us to our face, I'm leaving because I'm getting more money, I'm leaving because I'm getting benefits. So what has the department been doing to try to address this? Because we haven't been sitting around waiting for someone to solve it for us. So the board of directors has been working for the past several months, really for probably the better part of a year, on developing a strategic 5-year plan for how we take the department from where it's been historically through a transitional period and into a stable place for the town, so that we don't have dynamic years like this on a regular basis, where we're not continually having to come back to the town and say, we're going through another major change evolution. We're trying to do this in a responsible fashion and have a strategic 5-year plan that we feel good about. Things like we're making changes to our constitution and bylaws so that we have the latitude to make these staffing and leadership changes so that it's ethical to the department and it's appropriate to the town. We're shifting some paid leadership roles. We're shifting leadership roles into paid roles to fill those voids in the department that I mentioned earlier, where we have no one that can do that work from the volunteer side. We're engaging with our paid staff to help, to have them participate in training and activities for the volunteers. So we're promoting that cohesive hybrid entity where the paid staff and volunteers work really well together. When we get to a critical scene or even a routine scene, we have a great working relationship. We have a great social relationship. Everybody gets along. It's lovely. It's rare. And we're evaluating options and outcomes based on decisions that other departments have made to see what has worked for departments, what hasn't worked for departments. How can we learn from what they've done to have the best possible outcome for what we're trying to do here at Ashford. So those are the things that the department has been doing to try to be responsible in how we get through this transition period. Okay, so what this budget this year represents. There's a few things that are the big outliers to the budget. The addition of the paid chief position. We touched on that earlier. We do not have anyone that can do that role on the volunteer side. We have to have someone. We have to have a chief. So we're adding a paid chief. The addition of a budget to offer shared cost benefits to the full-time paid staff. Most employers that offer benefits, it's a shared cost platform. We're going to be no different. It's not like we're going to fully fund some amazing insurance policy for the employees. It'll be shared costs, just like most of us. I don't have insurance. It's like most people would have through their employer. And then we're looking for funding to continue operating safely as we have in previous years. So the baseline funding that we've executed over the past many years very responsibly is also subject to inflationary pressures, is also subject to changing prices and fluctuations. That budget is also still there behind the changes that we're looking to do, okay? So there's been discussion about, okay, we're not completely opposed to change. We just want to do change after we do a study. We want to do a study and we want to get input and we want to evaluate all of these things. And for context, I wanted to mention, so fire service studies do not usually produce large immediate budget cuts, okay? They do not.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second? Because I've heard people say this over and over again, and I really need to correct the record. I am not suggesting a paid study. That's not something that I said, nor am I recommending that. So I want to see a committee of the community with various stakeholders evaluating the options, and I do believe that community members could find out the information that we need.
Excuse me, I don't think you should be interrupting him, and I also don't agree with what you're saying, and I'll let you know why later, but let the person finish speaking.
Okay, it's been repeated
But
over
before
and
giving your
over
opinion.
that a $100,000 study, that's not at all something that I'm in support of.
So-
Please continue, thank you.
So, I'm going to try to pivot slightly because there's no point in me trying to make points to people that are adjacent to their actual positions. I'll attempt to try to pivot to address your clarifying statement, okay? I know a lot of things about a lot of things. In that, I know that I defer to experts when appropriate. I would think it would be tremendously difficult for a layperson to come into a really regulated, really structured, really set environment for safety reasons, a really lean budget, a really responsible operating practice and history of ethics and fiscal responsibility, and find some meaningful way that the budget could be modified that we haven't already thoroughly looked at and talked about, having decades of years of experience in the fire service in the room, trying to find those efficiencies, trying to find options that are beyond what we're recommending. We have done an exhaustive internal dialogue about how we could do this better for the town because we care about it. So to just move through the rest of this. So what happens if the funding is not recommended and appropriated? That's been a question that I've heard. We won't know for sure unless it actually happens, but we can provide some educated, forward-looking thoughts as to what that might look like. July 1st, we have a leadership vacuum. The chief operating officer for the department is gone. There's no one to backfill that role. It's a critical role the department can't function without. So daily operations will suffer dramatically. Paid personnel are likely to leave if we don't fund them. The message from the town will be clear. Without trusted leadership for the department because of that leadership vacuum, most of the paid staff will start to see this as a failed entity. Why would they stick around? Because they can go somewhere else and work safer for more money. Volunteers are less likely to feel supported by the town. I know I would. And are less likely to have confidence in continued service. Without the direction of a chief and without the support of paid staff, the few remaining volunteers, we would struggle to execute the role safely. Mutual aid will not serve the needs of the town. Mutual aid is a two-way relationship, hence the mutual. If Ashford is only on the consuming side of that aid and can't responsibly, routinely provide aid back, the relationship between our mutual aid towns will fail. And then contracted services will not be able to resolve the needs for the town. We don't have vendors sitting around with bandwidth that they're eagerly waiting to pull off the shelf and drop into Ashford. And if you were able to find a contracted service vendor for EMS, it still leaves a giant void for fire protection, for vehicle extractions, for anything other than ambulance-related services. So what it comes down to is the budget presented by the fire department is a good faith representation of what it will take to provide the town with emergency services for the coming year. It was developed thoughtfully, with every effort made to be responsible in spending. This budget is a significant increase from last year. However, we do not anticipate that increases of this magnitude are going to be normal or common. This is a transitional period. The department has a long-standing history of being fiscally responsible and operationally responsible. Nothing about any of that has changed. So that was just our context to provide the Board of Finance. I'm happy to take questions. I may or may not be able to answer them in the moment. Anything that I can't answer in the moment, I'm very happy to take away and provide a thoughtful response back to the board.
Thank you. Judy, you had your hand up if you want to go first.
We just had a question as to who was speaking because we didn't say a name and I can't see him through the owl.
Yeah, it's Luther Brock. He's the treasurer for the fire department, is that right?
That is in fact true.
Did that help?
Thank you.
Board members, any questions?
I had a question.
Go ahead.
So, did you say that the fire chief is leaving July 1st?
The fire chief will no longer be serving in that role effective July 1st.
Okay. So, how
I
long?
don't know if he's leaving the department. That's his
But there
business.
will be a chief.
But the current serving chief is vacating that role and no longer has the ability to serve in that role.
Okay. So, how long do you think it would take to find a fire chief? So, if we were to pay for one, I mean, how long do you think it would be to fill the position, even if it is paid?
I think that what we'd have to do is, we've been working at this pretty aggressively to set up the bylaws and the constitutional changes to allow us to even have that role. And as part of that, we have a framework of what that recruitment process will look like. We haven't set a specific timeline on it because we're still developing what the language of the position looks like. When you're recruiting for a leadership role in most organizations, I think you're probably looking at a search committee process of 6 to 8 weeks to find good candidates. And then I think from the department perspective, we would beg the outgoing chief to do some mentorship and knowledge transfer on his way out with that incoming chief as he comes into the role. Knowing the gentleman that's departing the role, I'm sure he'd take pity on us and do some of that. But that is how we go about this, is we know in advance far enough because of the calendar of the budget process as to whether this is a thing that the department's going to be able to move forward with. And as long as we have that window from when the budget is approved by the town, assuming that the funding is there, that should give us adequate time to effectively recruit and retain that person to start in the role. Does that adequately address that for you?
Yes, I guess so, a few months.
Yeah, I think when you're, it's not the largest pool of talent to draw from, so you don't have to interview 1,000 people, but we want to do it in a responsible fashion.
Exactly. It's more of like, do you think people are actually going to apply for it versus are you going to recruit and like,
yeah, I think we'll have
if it's going to take a year for you to find someone.
I do not believe that would be the case. I think we will have a good chance at a good candidate quickly.
Fair enough.
So Luther, you wouldn't look to hire from within? Is anyone interested?
We would not exclude from within. But
Okay.
It wouldn't be, I don't believe, anyway, I can't say with certainty, but I don't believe that we would do internal posting and then external posting.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, strong on believe, that we would do it as an open position because that's going to get us our best candidate pool.
Okay.
What we want is what's best for the town, best for the department.
Okay.
Yep, that was my question also is, you have people that have been on the fire department for 30, 40, 50 years. There's nobody interested in this chief position?
We do not currently have anyone that can fill the role as a volunteer. There are paid staff that might be happy to compete for the position if it's posted, but we do not have volunteer roster members that are able to fill the role.
What do you mean they're not able? What is the issue?
There are qualifications that are required to be able to function as a chief, and the people that have those qualifications are not interested or able to fill that role for whatever personal reason they have, and that's not my business. And the people that might otherwise be interested to fill the role don't meet the qualifications or cutoffs associated with that position.
Okay. I'm not trying to get you to be sarcastic. I'm just trying to get some knowledge of what's required for the role.
Yeah, there's quite a few qualifications in terms of leadership and training and certifications and experience and having held previous roles within the department. Like, so for example, myself, I have 3 whole years of experience. I'm not qualified to be anything. I can't even serve as a basic line officer until I have more experience. And then I would have to serve as an entry-level line officer for some period of time. And then I would be able to serve as a captain or a higher rank in the organization. You have to have enough experience and time in to qualify your way through the ranks. And it's all in a mindset of safety.
Other questions from the board?
If there are no other questions.
No, I have some questions. Luther, you said that you're shifting leadership to paid roles. What does that mean?
So what that means is when we respond, and I don't want to get out of my lane in operations because I'm not operations, but typically when a person responds, when we respond to an incident, you need someone to be in charge of the incident. So what we would like to be able to do is have paid staff be able to hold rank within the department so that there's a clear person in charge if it's paid staff response. So it's not It's not the same thing as creating a new chief position. It's the current staffing levels we have, one or more people in the current roster numbers that we have would also be given a title of captain, lieutenant, something like that. So we're not adding new positions, we're not adding anything like that, it's just adding responsibility to people.
Okay. I have some other questions if other people don't. Well, first off, let me say this. I feel like there were some comments made that maybe I don't appreciate people who volunteer, or I don't appreciate the work that the fire department does. I do. I do. I also have a role here on the Board of Finance to speak for the taxpayer and to ask questions. And I'm not going to apologize for doing that. That's my job in this role. And I think I can be respectful and I can appreciate everybody, but I also feel that I need to ask difficult questions. So just want to say that. I have a question about ambulance service revenue. So I just kind of want to point this out to folks because it's kind of confusing. So in the fire department budget, typically up until this year, there has been ambulance service revenue allocated to basically offset the cost to the town and the taxpayer. So for example, for last year, or for the current fiscal year, for 25-26, ambulance revenue offset was $62,000. The previous year, it was $89,000. And then this year, it's zero. And I know I asked a question about this, and that was in the Q&A, and I was honestly a little confused by the answer. So I just want to ask again, why is that ambulance revenue offset zero? And how much revenue does the department get from ambulance service, generally?
So I'm going to reference back to the language that was provided to the board and try to clarify on that for you. And if it's inadequate, then we'll develop more clarification for you for the next meeting. So this was, I believe, question number 24 in the previous packet. And so the EMS services line was removed to try to provide clarity and prevent some confusion. There's the physical ambulance and all the costs associated with operating the ambulance are paid by user fees, patient billing. It's not paid by the town. So the only EMS cost to the taxpayer in the budget is to staff the ambulance. So that ambulance revenue really offsets operating costs for the ambulance, and anything that's left at the end of the year from offsetting the operating costs related to that ambulance revenue, we're earmarking to replace the ambulance at the end of its service life, so that when it needs replacement, it's not a drop into the budget to have a large hit all at once. So we've been depleting department funds historically to help cover that effort. I'm not saying this well. I'm not saying this well, but basically the shift in how it's presented is just a shift in how it's presented. The money that's being collected is still being used to cover the operating expenses for the ambulance, and anything that's left at the end of the cycle is being allocated to cover replacement cost of the new unit.
Right, but I would say that's a choice that the department's making. And it's like right now, with the budget as presented, with a $0 ambulance revenue offset, down from 62,000 last year, down from 89,000, that's money that has to be made up by the taxpayer.
So.
Yeah, it is, because last year's total cost was let me look at the numbers. So the total cost.
Could you put that up on the screen so people can see what you're looking at?
Sure.
Referring to?
Let's see.
A little bigger.
So last year's total expense was $782,835, and then I have to zoom up. 782,835. But the total appropriation was $720,115, and the difference is the ambulance revenue offset, the $62,720. Which from what I understand, that $62,720 is ambulance revenue that's being used to offset the cost to the taxpayer. And that if you look in the column on the right, under 25, 26, which actually should be 26, 27, it's mislabeled, it says $0. Because now this year, the department is electing to not use ambulance revenue offset. And that means the taxpayer has to make up that difference.
So part of this might be a formatting concern, and I'll take this back and try to fix this for the next meeting, because there's also an entire category of expenses that the department sees related to EMS services that the ambulance revenue is offsetting, that is not captured in this.
Right, and the note in the budget says that was purposely left out.
Right, but what I'm saying is, you're saying that we're reallocating those funds, but we're not reallocating those funds for any purpose other than to continue covering the operating expenses for the ambulance.
I get that, but again, I'm saying that's a choice that the department's making.
Well, so
and I think,
it's a
and I
choice,
also
but
suggested.
it also is a reality that those costs exist.
Understood.
So we could either, show an artificial credit from ambulance revenue and then apply for more money from the town to, so it's.
Well, no, you would apply for less. You would apply for less money. That's my point.
I need to fix the formatting so that we can talk to this more accurately. I'm worried that we're talking at cross purposes, and I want to make sure that I can have a way to illustrate this accurately for you.
The other piece I want to bring up too, that I brought up at the last meeting, is why aren't we looking at purchasing an ambulance as part of the capital budget, just like we buy fire trucks, so that wouldn't be on the fire department necessarily.
If I understand, there is either a statutory requirement or some kind of requirement that we cannot do that.
Yeah, the ambulance is the fire department's purview, not the town's.
But the fire truck can be purchased by the town.
Fire trucks can.
Well, that seems odd.
Two different buckets.
That's odd. Okay. And I just want to state, just so people know, I looked it up. The fiscal year 24 ambulance service revenue totaled $274,186. So that's revenue that comes into the department every year. Looking at the wages line, and I'll pull this out of the way. We could look at it, I guess. So looking at the wages line, it's the request is $725,000. That's up $260,000 over the previous year. From what I understand, of that $260,000, about $100,000 is for the paid fire chief. Is that right?
That's, I believe, the number I have. Is
yeah. And then the rest of it, from what we've been told, is to increase the hourly pay for the firefighter EMTs from $23.50 to $25. So increase $1.50 an hour, right? Am I looking at the right thing? So I did some math. And so if you look at 725, the 725,000, and let's say you pull out the 100,000 for the chief, I know that's not the exact number, you're left with about 625,000 in wages. That would be for the firefighter EMTs. And then if you figure $25 an hour, that's about 25,000 hours total. Does that make sense? 625 divided by 25, 25,000, okay? Then I looked at last year's number, which was 465,000, which is on the screen there in the yellow band. 465,000. And if the hourly rate for the firefighter EMTs was $23.50, that's 19,787 hours total. So I'm wondering why we're looking at almost 6,000 more hours total.
We're looking at a staffing model change as part of the, no, I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. Yeah, so that's not capturing overtime, the numbers that you're working off of from previous year's budget.
So last year's budget didn't include overtime.
It's so imagine how frustrating this is for you. It's also frustrating for me because I get a little bit crossed up trying to get this right for you all, and it's frustrating because the people that can answer this. So also don't get it wrong. I'm the treasurer, but I'm not the operations manager. So I don't function in the granularity of shifts as much as I function in the bigger picture of paying the bills and all of those things. We've got people in the room that can answer this way better than I can.
Matt, can you answer that question? You seem like you know. Oh, did I say Matt? I'm sorry. Michael. Apologies.
Vaguely following the conversation to agree, I think a gap is that it's not like the hourly rate is $25 an hour. There's a certain amount of overtime built in to the fire department, like most fire department budget. For example, I don't know a fire department that doesn't have like a 24/72, for example, which means that most firefighters are working 42 to 48 hours a week. That's how we structure the budget. So your base pay is $25 an hour, right? But we're structured to have a specific amount of overtime. That pay is also considerate of overtime expenses that we have to plan for. For example, the winter storm that just happened 2 weeks ago. A little bit semi-confusing, but also the train derailment in Mansfield. Anytime that we have to pull in additional crews for emergency national disaster, snowstorm, snow coverage, mutual aid problems, we also have to consider what that might look like so that we're not overextending ourselves for having to cover the town appropriately. Like for example, for the train derailment, we sent a full engine company to Mansfield to assist with that, right? That's cost that we can't foresee, but we can try to budget in, and with a small group of paid staff, some of that was overtime. The snowstorm we just had, same consideration.
Okay, so overtime makes sense to me. But so then, am I understanding it correctly that there's more overtime built into this proposed budget than last year's?
I do not believe that is correct.
Because we're going from about 20,000 hours to 25,000.
Don't you have an increase in the number of calls?
But can you read the numbers for me again? Because
Yeah,
I'm
so
confused of what
I'll put it
where
on
you're
the
getting
screen.
25,000 from.
I'll put it on the screen. See if I can make it bigger. Okay, so the line item for wages for this proposed budget is $725,000. I took out $100,000 because that's the pay chief. That leaves us with $625,000 for wages. What I was told is we're paying people $25 an hour. So if you do 625,000 divided by 25, you get 25,000 hours. So basically, we're paying for 25,000
Okay.
hours across a year,
So-
across people.
So, as Michael pointed out, you're looking at a 24-hour day and 2 people, first of all. So you have to divide that number by 2.
No, I know, but let's not, I don't want to get there. But if we look at last year,
But,
and you do 465,000 and you divide by 2350, you get about 20,000 hours.
But-
So why are we upping, why do we have more hours? Is it more overtime? Is it
We're not.
another person?
we're not, you're not doing the math right, because
Okay.
we,
Explain to me how I'm not
a
doing
fire
that right.
department schedule is not a 40-hour work week. You can't divide your pay, or the total number divided by the pay and come up with an hour. Because you're not, we cover 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. There's built-in things for, as they mentioned, overtime. The schedule is not, it's not, you don't have the same person every single day showing up. It is super complicated, and it's impossible to break down, and I don't know, other than spending 3 days in a class to do it, because that's what I had to do. I don't know how to explain it to you, what you're doing is simple math, and it's not simple math. That's
Okay.
the way the guy
We
that
can
gave it
move
to
on.
me said it.
We
And-
can move on. All right. Couple other things I want to share, conversations that I've had in the last week. Well, actually, before I get to that, there was consensus on this board on Friday of the idea that we try to come to a cost of living increase for the fire department for the next year, with the idea that we would put together a committee and do a study that is not paid to look at our fire and ambulance service. And there was consensus on the board after I said that. Is there still consensus on that today?
Yes,
So you still feel that way?
yes.
Okay.
But with the appropriate people on, part of that committee, including the experts.
Okay. So that's Keith. Let me stop sharing so people can see. Others, please share your points of view.
I'm still a yes, because I'm like totally confused how on these conversations how things are moving. I'd like more clarity, that's all.
Okay.
I think I agree with Judy, but not to stall moving
Yeah,
ahead
not to
this
diminish.
year. We've got to do something. We're at a crisis point, it seems, from what we're hearing. I've been through 3 meetings about this. This is my 3rd or 4th one. And each time I learn something more. And it's disturbing, the state of the fire department. I would have liked to have heard this a few years ago, so maybe we could have prepared over the years and not had it dropped right now, but we can't ignore this. This is our fire department. This is our lives and our homes. But yes, more information, and from the fire department. I think the more education we get, the better off we are. But we've got to move forward.
Well, I appreciate that, Pam. But I think you're getting a little confused, though, in terms of what I'm advocating for and what you might be saying. Because what I'm advocating for is basically tabling the paid fire chief role, really taking a look at those wage increases, and getting us to a place where we can have more of a cost of living budget for 26, 27, and then take the time to create a committee with experts in the room, various stakeholders, to evaluate different options.
No, then
So
we are
that's what I'm
different.
advocating
Yeah,
for.
we're different then.
Because I look at it, if come July 1st, we have no fire chief, you know, what would, you know, the impact to the operation of the fire department. Do we have, you know, it's something, finding the right fire chief will take time. But I think that the preparation for that should begin, and it could even continue, a study could even take place after the appointment of a fire chief. You know, which may be helpful, but I don't know that we can go very much longer without a fire chief.
Personally, if this board approves a budget that funds a fire chief, I don't see the point in doing the kind of study that I'm talking about. Because at that point, I feel like the ship will have sailed and there won't be room to evaluate the kind of options that I think are out there. But once you have a paid fire chief, there's no reason to do it.
Okay, options being?
Things like, and this is where I guess I have to talk about the conversations that I've had. So I did speak to the fire chief in Pomfret, which is a town of similar size to Ashford. It's about 4,200 people. Their call volume is much lower, though I will acknowledge. And Pomfret does contract for their ambulance service with KB Ambulance. And then they have the fire department that's staffed by volunteers for fire service. So, you know, I just asked him, like, what do you think of KB Ambulance? And he said, you guys should definitely look at it. So that's a big thing for me, that I heard from someone, a neutral third party. He doesn't have a skin in the game. He said it's something that this town should evaluate because of exactly what we're facing, which is these escalating costs, the lack of volunteers, and that once you start offering benefits, those are gonna go up, up, up. And again, I am not saying, to be clear, I'm not saying KB Ambulance is a home run. This is going to be the solution.
But you want to put us out of jobs.
No, I don't want to do that either.
No, you're talking about taking the
People
job.
that sacrifice their time to come out here. I have 3 daughters.
Okay.
I have to pay for it.
I'm very
just a
sorry,
second.
but we can't engage in back
I'm
and
just
forth.
letting you know how I feel right
Okay.
now. I have sacrificed to come out here and serve the citizens of this town and do a service and put my life on the line every day so your house doesn't burn down to the ground.
Okay.
This is a shame.
I'm
This is a
sorry,
shame.
but we
This
can't
is-
engage
I know,
in
I'm
back and
sorry,
forth.
But this is absolutely absurd that you would even think this way.
So
Your whole paid staff is gonna be gone July 1st if this doesn't pass. And I'm telling you that, not to scare you, but it's gonna happen.
well, there's a lot of scaring going
sure
on
is.
right now. You have to approve this or the fire chief is done, and you have to approve this or your whole department is
It's our life
gonna
and time.
disappear.
Sorry, I apologize.
That's what I'm hearing,
So-
is a
so
lot
I would
of
like to clarify.
intimidation.
No,
And
sorry.
I have to call, I'm sorry, I have to call a spade here.
So
People are being intimidating. I am asking questions on behalf of the taxpayers in a reval year when we are facing, if we accept this increase, we are gonna look at people and tell them that they have to pay 10% or more for their taxes. That's more than a cup of coffee, guys. So I am not gonna apologize for asking these questions, and I would ask, while I understand it's emotional, that we please be respectful and understand nobody wants anybody to lose a job. I don't want anybody to lose a job, I don't.
Then,
So
Let's not lose their speech, go ahead.
To be clear, if it wasn't obvious, I'm actually trying to have a reasonable, professional, calm demeanor with everyone. I've been trying to give you the answers to the best of my ability, to de-escalate the tension, to have a reasonable conversation with everyone. It is an emotional response. I would also say, my earlier statements about my intentions, if the budget is not passed, that is not a threat. I mean, it's not. No, it's not a threat. It's so that you can all make an informed decision. How are you supposed to make an informed decision if you don't understand what the ramifications of that decision are going to be? Not might be, but are going to be. I will not continue. Regardless of whether this budget passes or fails, the current chief is departing. That's not a threat. It's his personal life. That's the end of the story. It's not a threat. It's not leverage. It's a reality we're faced with that we are trying to collaborate with the town to overcome the challenge of. It's not a threat. It's not
And
leverage. It's not abuse.
I appreciate collaboration, and I think that's what we need, collaboration.
And I will also say that there is no amount of study that you can conduct that will remove the challenge of not having a chief.
I'd like to make a comment. First of all, having a group of people from town do this study is the wrong group of people. The people who have been working on the study are people, essentially, are people who are experts. You would never have a committee of laymen from the town as the committee to come up with what the fire department should have, because they don't know enough and they're never going to learn enough in time. You would have, if you were doing anything, which is what these folks have done, they have reached out to other fire departments to find out what they're doing, how they work. They have a board that they work with.
So I have to respectfully disagree.
Well, I'm sure you will.
And that's my right. And
Yes, it certainly
we can
is.
definitely disagree.
But I can also
So-
say that making statements like were made in the last Friday's meeting, where you think that people are reacting in a way that's not meant for them to react, making a statement that the only increase that this department should get is a COLA increase was so insulting to all of them. It didn't look at the rest of the budget, it was just a COLA increase. And that was a statement, and if you want to really understand why people reacted the way they did, I suggest you go back and watch that meeting. It was recorded. So I can understand why they're concerned. I know that they've been working on this for some time, and I know that they have worked with other departments, other towns, and I know that some of the members here have worked in other towns. You were in another town. You were in another town. You were in another town. It's not like they just pulled this out of thin air. This was something they have been looking at, and I understand that some of the members of this board have not known that there were issues with the fire department being able to get the right kind of crew and retain them, because you haven't been around looking at this all that long. Okay, the rest of us, many of the rest of us do know. I knew about this before, when I was chair of this board. And one of the things I had asked the fire chief when he came on was to please, instead of putting forth a budget request that did not really look at what they needed, I really wanted them to come forth with what was absolutely needed. You gotta understand something. They didn't have fire equipment that was up to date, that would save their lives going into a building. They were outdated. There are requirements they have to meet with that, state requirements, federal requirements. There's a group, a fire department group. So it wasn't like they weren't working on this. The fact is, coming forward, sometimes people who are doing this job are not as articulate as some other people. Okay? They try to put forth what they could to make it understood. They're trying to do that now, and I think they should have the opportunity to continue doing that, at least for the next week and a half. Yes?
Yes.
Instead of having a situation where the chair of the Board of Finance jumped in and said, right from the get-go, what your opinion was before anybody else on this board got to speak, and you can watch the video. And what you said was you felt that they should just get a COLA increase. So I can understand why they're hot.
I don't have any, I'm not surprised that people are annoyed and upset. I'm not.
Well, but
So.
those were statements, and so statements intimating mismanagement. Yes.
Okay, let me just state this, and I'm just gonna say it, and then we can move on, and everybody can hate me. I think we as a community need to take a hard look at the escalating costs of fire and ambulance in our town. And that needs to come from more than just the fire department. While I fully acknowledge the folks at the fire department have all the expertise, there is value in outsiders taking a look at things. And I will just say that I did reach out to KB Ambulance. There was a statement made last night that, oh, KB Ambulance doesn't return phone calls. I called this morning, I got a phone call back in 15 minutes. I had a nice conversation with the head of KB Ambulance. He said they would 100% be willing to bid if that were to ever happen, ever come up in Ashford. So that is an option that could be explored. And I think, and again, this is my opinion as one person, I think that we owe it to the taxpayers to explore that as an option along with other options. That's my opinion. And I'm sorry if it offends people.
With KB Ambulance, you need to understand, when you made your call, you were not doing a call to get help. You were
I was just having a conversation, Catherine.
No, I know, but in terms of KB Ambulance answering the calls, that's what we're referring to. We're not referring to you making the call and having a conversation. The other thing is, if I understand correctly, they gave you an estimate of around, what, 500,000?
No, they didn't give me an estimate at all. They didn't give an estimate. Not at all. It was a conversation, that was it. And all I'm saying is it's a possibility that this town could explore if we, as leaders, wanted to explore it. But what I'm hearing is there is no interest in that. And
it does not include housing the ambulance, heat, electricity, or anything about that.
I did not get a number, so don't tell me what's not included.
We did.
Okay, so you got an estimate.
Let's just
Okay,
say,
well,
yeah.
that's a different
It does not include that. An outside company will go to collections. This fire department does not, with the way that they charge for ambulance calls, is if they get it through insurance. If the person doesn't have,
What? No.
If they don't have insurance,
I'm the chair.
we don't charge.
We're moving on.
And I don't need to be here.
I just want to say that what you are saying is that it is a fait accompli.
No, I did not say that.
And there is no interest in evaluating the different options for fire and ambulance.
I did not say that.
Okay, what are you saying then?
Okay, can you stop interrupting me? Because guess what? I'm an ex officio member of this board. Remember? In their case, that estimate of, we're talking about well over $600,000, and that does not include the staff. It also, nothing is being talked about in terms of the fact that if you change ambulance services, you have to change the agreements you have for mutual aid, you've got to change it with the hospitals, you've got to change a lot of things. So there's some complexity to this that they've already looked at. I know I was able to get that information, just asking. So,
okay,
I think it's very understandable the reaction that you've gotten and the reaction that some of the people in town are having about not being able to have the kind of service that they've had. I also can tell you that within the last 2 days, a very dear friend of mine had a medical emergency that involved blood. And within less than 2 minutes, one of our volunteer staff was at her home. The ambulance, I believe our ambulance was either out of service or doing something. It took, I think, another 20 minutes for an ambulance to get there with a mutual aid. And as that person was being put into the ambulance, she gave the volunteer, the person from the Ashford Fire Department, the keys to her home, her vehicle, everything. And she said, please make sure my animals, goats, chickens, whatever, everything is taken care of, dogs, cat. And she knew she could do that with the people that we have. Let me tell you, you bring in some other group like KB, they're not going to be like that. They're cut and dry. They don't give that extra. It's not a black and white thing.
That's when I say that it seems like it's a fait accompli, that you've made up your mind.
No, I'm
That's
saying,
where that's coming from.
these are other factors you need to consider.
Well, again, that would be the job of a committee to consider. Rob, would you like to say something?
I just wanted to ask a question in regard to your conversation with the Pomfret chief. Did anything about response time come into play? Hypothetically, we get a call up at Lake Chaffee. Say the town gets a call up at Lake Chaffee, and the response time from where KB ambulance is stationed.
Right, and that was something I raised with the person at KB Ambulance.
Good, so.
I said, could you park the ambulance in Ashford? And he said that is definitely something that could be considered.
Which, as I just told you, requires a cost, and you would not have the people.
Okay. So, what other questions do Board of Finance members have? You guys know where I stand. I don't think I need to say much more about it. What about other people? Do we need to discuss this anymore, or are people completely opposite of me and say, this is what we have to do and it has to be done?
It's difficult for me to take minutes when I'm only hearing half things being said, so I appreciate being able to hear everyone out.
Tim, go ahead.
So what I'm hearing through all of this is that, it sounds like a lot of the investigatory work into these other options has already been done. And maybe it doesn't cover everything that we would want, but I mean, if I present a project at work, I'm a project engineer, I have to propose all of the options and then say, this is why this is the best one. I understand that what the fire department has put forward as a budget is what they believe to be the best option. I think what may help clear this up from an objective standpoint is to see what other options were considered so that we can all understand why this is the best option. Does that make sense? I'm not saying that this is or isn't. I'm just saying if we want to get rid of any misunderstandings and gain that clarity, gaining the understanding of what options have been considered that led to the decision to make this the best one may help this board make the best decision possible. That's all.
I think that's a really good way to put it, and an opportunity.
Luther, can you share what other options the fire department explored?
I would be much more comfortable having that conversation with some graphics to be able to share and with a little more time to prep for some of the conversation that deep. This is a process that's going on over a year, so to expect me to be able to accurately recall and state on the record all of those things, I don't think I should do justice to it.
So just for clarity, Luther, I did not expect that to be an off-the-cuff discussion. Certainly the time necessary to prepare something like that, just so we can all be on the same page and understand what has and hasn't been considered. Because, I hate duplication of effort. I'd hate to start making phone calls to things that you guys have already investigated,
Thank you.
Would it be possible to get like a little bit more detail too? Because especially with Christina saying with like the overtime, how you just have like one line of wages. Can you do like, hourly wages, overtime, what you're projecting, just a little bit more detail into it? Or at least like, I don't know, like the ambulance, like seeing that, like the ambulance revenue, whether it's, in separate or whatever, just to see it, the offset and things like that, just a little bit, or benefits, like what specific benefits, that kind of thing.
What we'll do is we'll try to come with the information we can. Honestly, the benefits at this point is a line item budget that we would work within to then try to find matching options for the paid staff. It's not like we can even really shop plan levels or anything at this point, but it would be, this is the maximum amount to be spent on benefits for paid staff. So it's setting a spending.
Okay.
But we'll put together as comprehensive you a packet as we can. Yeah, that we can provide the best clarity in sort of simple terms, so that it's less confusing.
Other questions? So it sounds like we're gonna discuss this at our next meeting. Continue the conversation. Okay, next item on the agenda is discussion of the CNR fund balance and possible action regarding transfer from the unassigned fund balance to the CNR fund. So I did do the math on what that looks like.
So there is a change that's been proposed by the Board of Selectmen to the capital improvement plan, which I outlined when I gave my select woman's update.
Yes, I think we can have this conversation separate from that. I don't know if other board members have an opinion, but.
Well, the change.
Well, if you're looking to do some kind of a vote on what the amount is or anything like that,
Well, yeah,
you're not at a place where
it's not a large change though, right?
No, it's not large.
Yeah, so.
Right.
But it seemed like doing it ahead of the other.
So I can share, so the unassigned fund balance as of June 30th, 2025 was $2,897,402, which is 17.7% of general fund expenditures. If we were to move $300,000 from the unassigned fund balance to the CNR fund, which is consistent with what we did last year, that would leave us with 15.8% in the CNR, or in the unassigned fund balance. Is there any questions or comments about that?
Why are you going as high as 16%? Isn't the auditor's
So we
recommendation?
started at 17.7. We could go lower if we transfer more.
Thought our policy was.
Your policy was
12 to
between 10,
15,
it was,
10.
I think it was 10 to 15. I don't know that you changed it for this year.
I didn't change it. I'm just.
It would have been you all changing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was the same, it's the same policy.
Would folks like to see that number at 15%?
I will.
I will do the math. It takes a second. Let's see. So to get us to 15%, it would be 14.6%. We could transfer 500,000.
That also protects that money from any lawsuits when you put it in CNR.
Can always be moved back if needed.
You can move it back if you need to, but what it does is a protection.
Would anybody like to make a motion that
So moved.
Keith made the motion?
I'll second.
Pam seconded.
Can you finish the motion so we know what it was?
We know
Is
where
there any discussion?
Can you finish the motion so we know what it was?
All right, I stand to ask for a
The
corrected
motion
motion.
is to move $500,000 from the unassigned fund balance to the CNR fund. That's it. And Keith Lipker made the motion and Pam seconded the motion.
Thank you, Pam and Keith.
And is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Discussion and possible action regarding the school roof bond options. So Catherine, let me just call those up on the screen.
Yeah, and that's actually not a decision that your board makes.
Do you want, I mean, we don't have to discuss it then. Are you saying we
just-
shouldn't discuss it?
You can't make a decision.
You had it on
but-
here, so I was
Yeah,
surprised.
but can we just get the information, so from my head, we have that data?
Right, we provided that already.
Yeah, you sent it to us, right? You did send it to us.
I gave you printed copies because we were doing it during
Okay.
the capital improvement
Okay.
meetings, but the treasurer, Sherry Suski, sent it out. So if you pull up page 3 under the, not the structured one, the other one.
It's hard to see.
What it does is it shows a kind of a leveled,
I'm not sure what's what here. We've got,
let me see, I can see what you got there. This is page 1,
Yep.
and this is, we don't want structured, we want the other file. This is structured principal. And this is debt impact.
Oh, yeah, I
Because
have
you're
that
going
one down.
against, you're paying some of the debt, so to speak. Go to page 3. Oop, that's 4, 3.
That's page 3.
This one. Make sure I got this right. If you look at, when you look at this, what you'll see is the overall interest payment is going to be less than any of the other options. It's also a 15-year plan instead of dragging it out. And what you see here is kind of a leveled payment against principal and interest. It's better to plan with. And also, you know, I don't know if people understand, but those first 2 rows over to the left, well, actually the rows on the left-hand column, that is our existing debt. So the amount we're paying on the second set of columns for the school roof would then be added, and the total is sitting over in that third column. So for each year. We can also roll this for another year if you wanted to delay it. We're not recommending that, but, so you'll see that you get a spike, not this upcoming year, but in the next year after that of 208,200, 201, and then you see it start to come down. But what you have is something that shows you a kind of a steady flow, declination. That's the one we recommend and that we're going forward with. And if you look on the, in terms of what it costs on our plan, our general government budget, bear with me, I just want to pull it up here quickly. It would be, it's only incredibly enough for the upcoming year, it's only, I don't know, a few dollars less or more than what we already had planned. So I think we're at $30,317 for the school roof. And the overall debt payments would be $69,717. So that is the plan at the current time. And mind you, the bond council's estimates were from their research, we're going out and finding out what we can get. That is subject to change, because we haven't signed the paperwork and done all of that. But I believe that one of the questions that was given to us by the Board of Finance is why weren't we going for a 15-year plan? And the response was, because what we had shown was a 20-year plan. And the response was that we actually wanted to do the 15-year plan, we were just showing you what it would look like for 20 years.
okay, any questions for Catherine on this?
Thank you, Catherine.
Okay, the next item is discussion and possible action regarding the general government budget. I don't think that we're going to take any action on this. Is there any further discussion?
I will tell you that the Board of Selectmen took your questions very seriously. I appreciate certainly what was pointed out, that some of the energy costs might be greater. We also did a double check with the oil company. So we get oil, gasoline, and diesel from Dime Oil, and we have a contract with them. And that contract, I mean, reading it, I went, what happens in case of war? Can they increase the prices on us? And we know they cannot, and we confirmed that with a representative from the company. So that's a pretty grave concern. I don't know how these oil companies do it. And again, we went through everything. And we did a little shifting around for some things related to hazardous materials, because there was some confusion about what was in those lines. And we straightened that out and adjusted the numbers accordingly. We also, the school and the town general government will have an 8.1% increase. And as I said earlier, that has a bigger impact on what the school is paying for, needs for insurance monies than the town, because we don't have the same number of employees. Another thing that I did mention to the fire department is there's always an opportunity to look at seeing if they can get the same provider as is used by the school, the library, and the town general government. So, and our library, the library is a 501c3 as well as the fire department. And they do offer insurance and benefits to their employees.
My understanding was they only offer it to the director. So-
Correct.
Well,
Is that correct, Sean?
That's the full-time employee.
I don't want anybody to think they're giving it to everybody that's.
No, I'm sorry, I meant to say full-time employee.
Okay.
And we're not a 501.
Sorry?
We're not a nonprofit.
Oh, you're not a nonprofit?
The library is not.
All these years we've
Only
gone.
you pay for the fuel. Only the Friends group is.
Ah, thank you very much.
Everything is through them.
I stand corrected.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Shante.
Any other questions about general government? Okay, next is discussion and possible action regarding the Ashford school budget. Is there any interest in taking a vote on the Ashford school budget this evening? We really haven't had many questions about it, so that's why I'm asking.
Well, my turn to be not popular. I have a problem with the board asking about a large increase from one department, but basically, for lack of a better term, just brushing off a large increase from another department. And by large, I mean dollar amount. Percentages don't mean anything to anybody out there. They don't care if it's 10% or 50 or 1. They know that means something, but they don't care till they get their tax bill. So I don't personally have a problem with this year's school budget at all. I thought the Board of Ed budget was well thought out. I think it's put together very well. I have some issues with some of the facts, if you will, that they tell us. For instance, the class sizes, the town says they need to be small. Nobody's asked me. My family, my mom, my wife, my sister, they're all educators. And every single one of them would tell me that if they had class sizes that size, they would have been ecstatic, because they didn't, and they don't. So it kind of, to me, it doesn't sit well with me that we can take and accept a $300,000 increase from the Board of Education. But we can't accept it's a substantial increase from the Board of Selectmen's budget, when generally speaking, the Board of Education is somewhere between the $200,000 to $400,000 increase range, and the Board of Selectmen are normally down in the half of that, 150 to 200,000. So like I said, I have no specific problem with the Board of Ed budget, but we're fighting, if you will, I mean, it pretty much was a fight, about one portion of the Board of Selectmen's budget that has an extremely important impact on the town and on every single taxpayer, versus the Board of Education, which their budget overall is enormous and has impact on, other than the children, it has impact on the families of those children, and it does have impact. I believe in public education, but I just have a hard time swallowing that. We can't have a hard conversation about that. And I mean, I could drive down and say, why don't we have outside busing instead of interior, paying $150,000 a year for a bus? I mean, to be fair, we've talked about that before. The town decided they didn't want that. They want the bus drivers to know the kids. I agree with that.
Well, my recollection on that is that the Board of Ed did go out and get bids, and the outside agency was more expensive than what we could do in-house.
I don't.
It was M&J Bus, and the price.
Was that recently?
It was 4 years ago, I would say.
Ralph was still first.
We remember, some of us remember.
But my point is that, like I said, I have no opposition
freaking out
to this budget, but I just do have I guess I have opposition to the lack of understanding, or for me, why this budget doesn't seem to be a big deal, but the other one does. That's just me.
Does anybody else have any discussion about the school budget?
I kind of agree with Paul. Every year it increases quite a bit. And yet, these guys, what I heard last night, some people are worried about paying their rent or mortgage, can't afford fuel oil. I'm speechless. I'm just speechless that this is to be tolerated. But on the other hand, the school budget is like just pushed through. I don't understand it. I get your point that, it's the taxpayers that are going to be footing the burden, but these people need to live. The teachers are living, the superintendent's living, the principal, the assistant principal, all of the administration up there is thriving. And we're asking the people that we depend on to survive in an emergency to do without basic benefits, a living wage. I can't wrap my head around it. I just can't. I don't understand why the public would say no to them when we depend on you all every friggin' day. And I don't get it. That's all I have to say.
Would anybody, it doesn't sound like anybody wants to make a motion regarding this budget this evening?
So, Christina, I have to totally agree with Pam. As you guys know, I've been an advocate for the underdog for many years. The fire department, I love those guys. I've known most of them my entire life. I went to Ashford School, and I've been telling everybody that it's unsustainable, and we haven't stopped. When I look at the school, the population going down, this and that, I expect the ship to be turning so that we don't have these huge increases. But every year we go after that, while we let the fire department diminish. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that I have a problem with the school, but I'm just saying that we're going down the road where we're going to have a fully paid fire department eventually. We're also going down the road where we don't want to cut anything from the school. So I'm just saying, you think it's hard this year? Just wait. It's just begun.
There was something I forgot to mention in my Select Women's update. Last night, I attended a meeting at Region 19, with Region 19 for, on the committee, looking at putting in place a 3-year rolling average. And as you know, when it comes to Region 19, we have these spikes. Ashford and Wellington experience them the most, and some can be dramatic. Last year, they came in at 11 point something, and they were able to bring it down to, I believe, 9.8% increase for Ashford. But they made very serious cuts. Everybody agonized last year. I mean, everybody. This board, this Ashford school, general government, I had to cut a position, we had to cut a position and reduce in other areas. And Region 19 did the same thing, and you and I attended the same meeting where they were going through at the end of it, and you left earlier than I did, and what happened was I got called over, and they asked, do you think you could take another 0.2% increase on top of what we talked about tonight? And I said, not my decision to make, you'd have to talk to the chair of the Board of Finance, okay? So with this group, one of the things that they've been looking at, and we have 2 representatives from Ashford on there. We have the Board of Finance chair for Wellington. We have the first selectman from Wellington. We have the town manager from Mansfield. And we have a few members of the board. And Tim Rourke he's one of our representatives. He's been simply awesome in going through and doing the number crunching and looking at it and trying to figure out what will work. And what looks like it works best is a 3-year rolling average. So instead of spikes that go up and down and below, here's the median of no increase, and some of ours are 10% higher, and then there's some others 10% lower. So that variation makes it really hard to plan, and it definitely makes it hard for us to plan for how we're going to take care of our Ashford School, which I consider the walls of the building, and then Region 19, education for our kids, which is the roof. Making sure you have the good foundation, et cetera, et cetera. And it hasn't always been kind of a fair process because Region 19 needed so much. And we ended up with more students going, and it's proportional and all of that. The bigger issue is that Mansfield's student population is dropping. And incredibly enough, ours is going up. So the rolling average looks so much different. It's on a more even keel, and the variation is, what I saw was, even looking back at what we've had before and then going a little bit forward, is like between a 4 to 6% increase instead of a 10% increase, and then a 10% drop the following year or a couple of years hence. So the good news is we do not have to get legislation changed to put that in place. What we do need to do is, we're looking at the model that was done for Region 13 in the state. They didn't have to have a legislative change. And there are different things we have to go through, and then get each town, have a town meeting, the equivalent of a town meeting, Mansfield doesn't do it quite that way, and approve going to a 3-year rolling average. And as long as all 3 towns approve, we can have a memorandum of understanding from each of the towns, and we can move forward. And the goal is to put this in place, if at all possible, for fiscal year, hang on, I wrote it down, not this next upcoming fiscal year, but the year after that. So I just want you to know that that's something that is being vigorously pursued, and it makes sense.
So you're saying 27, 28?
27, 28, okay. I didn't write it down, so I forgot to mention it.
That's fantastic.
Okay, the next next item on the agenda is agenda items for the next meeting, which would be the general government budget and the Ashford school budget. Remarks for the good of the board, I don't have any. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Wait,
Come on, Keith.
Christina. Christina, I, I got a remark. I mean, I understand everybody's tension getting high. It's a very stressful situation for everybody involved. But I must say, Christina, that you took some blows tonight. You sat there, you took them, and it ended up to be a rational discussion, regardless if you kept getting interrupted rudely. But I give you a lot of kudos. You did a good job. The fire department, I hope you guys understand that, you know, like for me, this is not a personal thing. I'm just looking at everything. And it doesn't mean that I haven't looked at the school or the general budget. So I just want to say, everybody hang in there. We got a little ways to go, but we'll get there.
Thank you. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I will.
I will.
Good night.
Bye.